Hi, I'm Rolfe here. We need to start with the big picture. If your organisation is investing in mentoring, there needs to be sound reasons why. Here are a few examples. Retaining experienced employees is one major reason mentoring is introduced. 77% of companies say mentoring increases retention. The California Nurse Mentor Project found that mentoring reduced RN attrition, saving hospitals between 1.4 million and 5.8 million over 3 years. A lot of organisations invest in expensive recruitment and selection strategies, yet 33% of employees who do not receive regular mentoring look for another job within 12 months. Not surprising when 85% of employees say their morale declines significantly after spending 6 months on the job. Another reason for mentoring is to improve employee engagement. It's known that increasing performance factors such as loyalty and attitude result in a boost to productivity, measured in terms of profitability, retention, and customer satisfaction. Frighteningly, the statistics for employee engagement are generally not good. A global workforce study by Towers Perrin found that only 1 in 5 employees are engaged on the job, and 38% are partially or fully disengaged. A Right Management survey found that 35% of new executives fail within the first 18 months. Mentoring is useful to help high potential people move into management and succeed. As baby boomers leave the workforce, we will lose their life experience, corporate knowledge and skills. There are things you can't learn from study alone. Few organisations can afford to waste this accumulated wisdom. In some trades, professions and industries, it is becoming increasingly difficult to find skilled workers. Mentoring gives welcome support to people considering a career, those in trading, or making a change. Mentoring can make a difference at all stages of workforce participation. Imagine lifting the trajectory of entry-level employees, enabling workers to get traction early in their careers, and increasing engagement through the personal attention of a mentor. Envisage the value of transition to management programs that combine formal education, career development opportunities, and the guidance of a mentor. Think about the productivity implications of an effective return to work after a parental career break, supported through mentoring. Consider reducing the vital knowledge and experience usually lost to organisations as older workers leave through mentoring. Your reason for mentoring may be similar or different to any of these, but if you want to achieve important outcomes, you need to develop a mentoring strategy to get you there. You've seen this model before, and I'm going to work through a more detailed version of it. There's a copy of that in your manual. The 4 core aspects of your mentoring strategy are planning, which is about determining the outcomes you want and detailing how they'll be achieved. Promoting mentoring, having a communication plan that helps people understand and support mentoring. Preparing participants, making sure they know what's expected of them and have the knowledge and skills for their roles. And program support, ongoing follow-up, monitoring and activities that keep people engaged and effective. Here's a more detailed version of the model and some background music while you read through it. Each of the items listed is covered in this course, but the ones we'll focus on in this module are identify strategic objectives, analyse the needs of your target group, and engage stakeholders. This is quite a big module because it lays the foundation for your mentoring strategy. Here's why these first 3 areas are so important. If you don't link mentoring to corporate objectives and key strategies that add value to your organisation, you will find it hard to maintain support from stakeholders. Interest and budget are likely to dry up as other demands compete. You risk mentoring becoming flavour of the month and fizzling out as other priorities seem more urgent. That can make people disillusioned and cynical, not only about mentoring, but about any future initiative. Even if you're clear about who your target group for mentoring is, if you don't look carefully at what they need to achieve the outcomes you are hoping for, mentoring may be a pleasant experience but make no difference to results. Stakeholders are people who can influence the success or otherwise of mentoring. They include senior decision makers, people who will directly be involved and those who may be affected indirectly by the program. They are people whose interest or disinterest can make or break your strategy. If you don't get your stakeholders engaged in the planning stage, it may be difficult to get them on board later. So let's start to specify objectives. To develop a strategy, we start by looking at high-level aims. You need to identify what the needs of your organisation are. What are its goals? Where are its pain points? What problems does it need to solve? Then you need to show how mentoring can add strategic value. This will help you decide on the focus of mentoring. Who should you target as mentors and mentorees, and what the broad purpose of mentoring is. From this, you can determine the specific outcomes you want to achieve and how you'll measure results. You've got this diagram in your manual, and the best way to understand it is with an example. So I'm going to work through one now. I suggest you write some notes on your copy of this model as we go. You can pause the presentation now if you need a moment to get ready. So, working at the aims level, this example is a large organisation. The need is that now it has to comply with ASIC's new equity reporting requirements that came into effect in 2012. This means showing results, not just listing plans and programs for equity and diversity. Looking at the results of diversity strategies in other organisations reveals that action on diversity brings the potential to avoid skill shortages, become an employer of choice, and lower recruitment costs, all of which are highly valuable to the organisation. Further research into diversity reveals an interesting vital statistic. Organisations who have more women at the most senior levels outperform those who don't by 30 to 40%. So targeting high potential women for leadership development is a no-brainer. Mentoring becomes part of a strategy to get more women in the leadership pipeline, help women transition into senior roles, retain talent, and attract more females to apply for positions. Measuring current numbers and comparing them to figures after the program will indicate results. In the example, it's pretty easy to identify the target group. It's going to be high potential women matched with experienced female and male leaders. You may have a target group in mind for mentoring already. That's fine. But you have to ask yourself why this group, not another, will make a difference and add value from an organisational perspective. You might want to pause the presentation now and reflect. There's a spot in your manual to jot down your thoughts. Once you are clear about who is to be mentored, you have to analyse their needs. I like to think of mentoring as something that will help people get from where they are to where they want to be. So the first thing to do is describe their current situation and the desired situation. If we look at the example we used before, the outcomes we intend are more women in the leadership pipeline and getting more women into senior roles. This is likely to result in greater use and retention of our talent and getting more female applicants because the organisation is more attractive to high potential women. You'd list this as the desired situation. So if you thought about it, checked with human resources staff, talk to managers and perhaps a sample group of the female employees, you could probably get a good picture of their current situation. Now comes the interesting part. I'd like to introduce you to a process called force field analysis, developed by Kurt Lewin. It's a tool typically used in a brainstorming session with a group. Having described the current situation and the desired situation, you then elicit driving forces, factors that support, encourage, or propel people towards the desired situation, and restraining factors. These are all the factors, pressures, and issues that restrict progress or prevent the desired situation. So, thinking of the example of our high potential women that we want to get in the leadership pipeline and move into senior roles, take a minute to list some driving forces and restraining forces you imagine might be in play. You can pause the presentation while you do this. Here are a few ideas other people have come up with. Driving forces might include motivation, knowledge, skills, experience. There would be many more, of course. Restraining forces could be a lack of these, plus low self-confidence, conflicting demands, lack of formal qualifications, poor support, and the list goes on, but you get the picture. You can see why it's useful to get a bunch of people involved in this process. If you do it alone, the best you can do is guess, and we've all fallen into the trap of making incorrect assumptions on our own. So my recommendation is that you engage your stakeholders, both in the needs analysis and the planning for mentoring. You want to engage potential participants as well as influential leaders and decision makers, plus the people most likely to be actively involved in running mentoring. Basically, you want their input, so you might interview people face-to-face, by phone or online, conduct a survey, run information sessions where you give some basic information about mentoring and ask people what benefits and challenges they foresee, and/or facilitate a workshop with a representative sample of stakeholders to map out the mentoring strategy. So as you finish up this tutorial, you need to decide who you are going to involve in the needs analysis and planning for your mentoring strategy and what methods you will use to gain their input. There's a spot in your manual to do this. Once you've gathered information from stakeholders, distill the key factors you need to incorporate into your plan. I'm looking forward to working with you to make your mentoring strategy the best it can possibly be. I'll talk with you soon.